What is going on, everyone? It's Mike, it's John, back again for another match preview. Now, we have missed a video, which was the Palace debrief, but there was a reason for that. Is we expected to know about the points decision within 24 to 48 hours. So, as we've said before, we don't want to ram content down your throat, which is a complete waste of time. We just like to come on, when we feel it's right, and obviously a preview against Brighton is the right time. However, I think John will agree with me. It's very difficult making content about Everton at the minute. Do you not think, John?
Yeah, how I've been since Monday night. Now, you've said it and I've said it, and I've seen people saying, look, we need to know an answer one way or another because it's not just affecting Everton, it's affecting other clubs around us now. I've come to the point now where I'm not asked about them other clubs. I'm really, really not bothered how them other clubs feel about Everton finding out where the first port of call. We should know by now. Now, this hearing finished over 2 weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago. When the jury gets sent out for a murder case, they don't take this long to make a decision. So they know their answer by now. And I've said to you many times, is it good that we're not hearing and they're holding it back and holding it back? Or is it a bad thing for us that we haven't found out and they've not changed nothing and they've stuck to the guns with the 10-point deduction? But listen, I'm hoping we find out tomorrow before the Saturday game against Brighton, because then it's dragging into another week next week, which is the end of the month. Now, we were supposed to have found out the middle of the month. So the middle of the month in February, we were all looking around the 14th to hear the decision. Here we are on what? A week, 8 days later than the 14th, and we're still waiting. It's an absolute shock. It's embarrassing. The Premier League are embarrassing themselves. The Commission are embarrassing themselves more and more every day with holding this decision back, because I bet you any money on it, they know their decision. So why not release it to Everton so Everton can tell the fans?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I actually can't add anything to that, John. I think you've just explained it really well, and it's demoralising. James Garner said, it doesn't help that they don't know what's going on. There was a reaction to the fans booing. Me and you had slightly different opinions about that, but I have actually listened and saw what he said, and I get that he doesn't want to be booed, but the players need to appreciate that they need to put a performance on the pitch that doesn't warrant being booed. Then, we pay a lot of money to go and watch our football team. I travel. I worked it out. Some of the stats I worked out for on the Tuesday after the game was unbelievable, but I tweeted about it. I've watched 14 games, home games. I've been away as well, but I've watched 14 home games in the last 12 months, which isn't bad going, bearing in mind I travel 220-mile round trip to do it. And I haven't seen us win in those 14 games. And the games I've missed have been games that we've won. So, that speaks
have you ever thought it could be you?
Yeah. I lie the problem. I travelled 2,968 miles without watching a home win. And the only win that I've watched in 12 months is Aston Villa against Everton at Villa Park this season in the Carabao Cup, which was, in my opinion, one of, if not our best performance of the season.
Stick to the away games.
It's demoralising, and we go into this game against Brighton, and I was thinking, right, our away form's been good, and Brighton, I don't know what their home form's like, so I went and had a little Google, get some stats ready for the game. So Everton haven't won in their last 5 away. We lost 2-0 to City, 0-0 with Fulham, 0-0 with Palace, Wolves we lost 3-0, and Tottenham Hotspur we lost 2-1, albeit you might argue we could have got a draw in that game if there was the decision. And Brighton's home form in the last 5, they've won 4-1 against Palace, 0-0 with Wolves, 4-2 against Spurs, 1-0 against Olympique Marseille, and a 1-1 draw against Burnley. So they haven't lost in the last 5 at home. Their average points per game is 1.92, compared to Everton's 1 point per game at home. So,
doesn't give a good reading, really, does it?
But Brighton's average goals is 2.17 per game on average. Everton's is 1.8. So, if I'm being honest, it stinks. It absolutely stinks when you look at every single metric to compare Everton against Brighton. It stinks. And when you put into perspective that Brighton were a championship team, 5 years ago? 4 years ago?
4.
Chalk and cheese, mate. Chalk and cheese. And when we talk about, clubs being run and people doing their job, look at Brighton. Look at Brighton.
Well, I think, as you hit the nail on the head with the saying there, chalk and cheese, they're a better run club than Everton. They've got, albeit looks like the director of football is going. They've picked up good players. Yeah, right. So you look at the player, not the player, someone from the backroom staff or whoever it is who's going to Chelsea, but he can't go till November. The Chelsea bought Caicedo off them.
Yeah.
They also bought someone else. I can't remember who it was now. Brighton, in excess of took £200 or £300 million off Chelsea. That is a well-run club. And granted, I know you've just given us the stats, but they haven't been as good this season, in my opinion, Brighton. But they're miles ahead of Everton on structure of the club, the way they play, the manager. You've just hit the nail on the head with the stats you've given us. So this is a game that we go into, and I'm starting to think, why the hell am I making this trip? Why am I leaving at 6:30 Saturday morning, and I'll probably get home at midnight, 1 o'clock Sunday morning? But this is what we do. I'm sure it'll be a packed away end. But back to the game, mate. This team needs to put a massive and improved performance in. Going back to what you said about James Garner, I know you disagreed with me, where I said I don't think he should be doing that. Fans are entitled to an opinion, just like players are. I don't mind a player having a pop at the fans for booing and shouting from the terraces if that certain player and that individual is putting performances in. In my opinion, James Garner has been piss poor for the last 3 or 4 games. So it doesn't warrant him to have a go at the fans when he's not putting performances in himself. And I know it works both ways. The fans need to get behind the team, but the fans need something to get off their seats for, Michael. Now, the atmosphere at Goodison is absolutely shocking. Shocking. It was like a pre-season game on Monday night. You could hear the players shouting to each other. You could hear Sean Dyche shouting to the players. You could hear their manager shouting to his players. You could hear a pin drop. It was like a library. Now, the atmosphere over Goodison over the past few weeks, possibly month, 6 weeks, has got noticeably quiet and worse.
Years.
Well, years. Yeah, well, it has, and this is another thing I said. Everyone goes on about, Goodison Park under the floodlights. It's shit. And I tweeted that the other day. It's a fallacy. It's a myth that everyone says, I can't wait to get to Goodison Park under the lights to feel the atmosphere. It's a myth. So don't believe that, because I have been to every game this season, whether it be in the daylight, whether it be under the floodlights, and the atmosphere is absolutely woeful. And I know we've had a lot going on around the club, and I know the fans are waiting for this outcome, and I know we've got a second charge hanging over our head. League position's not great with this 10 points gone. The football we're watching is absolutely shocking. So I know the fans are feeling it. And as I said before, you know how I've been feeling since Monday. I won't be the only one who's feeling like that. But we need something on the pitch as well, Michael, to give us a lift, because we're not going to get it from anywhere else until we find out the decision from this independent hearing. So it's down to the players and it's down to the fans to pull together again, because God forbid, if we don't get any points back, we're in a massive relegation scrap with teams around us, in my opinion, who play better football, who have better individual players, who play better as a team. We don't get nothing back, God forbid. I think this is the season we go.
You got to remember, John, it's almost depending. Obviously, there's two charges. This is what I feel like people keep forgetting. It's not just one charge. There's two.
Oh no.
But
the second one's for the same sort of thing as the first one.
Yeah. So if they nail us for 6 points now, they could nail us for 6 points then, and then we're actually 2 points worse off, you know, or they nail us for 8, they could nail us for another 8. There's 6 points gone. And, you know, I was giving it the big, and I was giving it the big, and I think a lot of Everton fans was, you know, saying, yeah, give us another 6, give us another 5, we'll be sound. When you look at the way that we are playing football right now, I can't see us unlocking teams. I can't see us, stringing passes together. I've not been as harsh on James Garner as you have, but I understand why you've been saying it, because every pass he makes is either sideways or backwards. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily even blaming him for that. It's like the setup of the team is restricted, and it's just, there's no expansive football. It all goes to Tarkowski or Jordan Pickford, and they all kick it long. And there's a reason why Calvert-Lewin won 17 headers. It was because every single ball went long to him. They didn't trust the wingers to break down their fullbacks. They didn't trust the centre midfield to carry the ball through. We've got no ball carrier in the middle of the park, apart from maybe Garner. And he took Ladrissa Gana-Gueye off and brought on Onana, who, you know, he scored a goal, but I thought he could have done a lot better for the Palace goal when he was on the pitch. So you sit there and you think, it's absolutely fine giving Dyche this praise and this credit. Oh, he's doing such a good job with a poor team, and, you know, he's getting the best out of them. But is he really getting the best out of this team? Because I don't think he is. I don't think this Everton team, even on paper, should be 17th in the league. When I look at that team and I look at some of the money that's been spent on some of those players, albeit a long time ago, or, you know, they're in and around the squad, whatever. There's a £30 million centre forward that doesn't start games. There's a centre forward that can't score goals that is starting games, and yes, he's winning headers, but he's not winning headers in the box and scoring from it. Then you've got
he puts them over.
Yeah, you've got a £14 million player who's not getting any minutes in a young lad who's got pace to burn by the looks of it. You've got Lewis Dobbin, who he scored more recent than any of our other strikers, yet he's played 85 minutes or something since he scored against Chelsea. It is shocking. And then when you look at the rest of the team, you think he's making decisions to drop Harrison for Ashley Young. At 45 minutes in that game, every single person, every single Everton fan in that stadium could say that Ashley Young was not having a good game. And I'm not even criticising Young for this. He's 38 years old. He shouldn't be starting Premier League games. He doesn't make a change at half time. He waits until 65th minute, and then the moment he changes the game, he makes the subs. We go 1-0 down within a minute. You sit there and you think, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I'm not sitting here saying I want Dyche out. I'm not. I'm really not, because he's somebody that I can get behind. You know, I understand his back is against the wall and he is a fighter, but what he's doing is he's turning a slightly better team than what he had at Burnley, turning them into Burnley. So we are going from a slightly better version of Burnley to Burnley, and there's no disrespect to Burnley at all, but they got relegated pretty much under Dyche. They actually almost stayed up without Dyche when Ben Mee was managing them. So if I'm being brutally honest, I don't think Dyche is doing a great job. I know people are praising him, and that's fine if that's your opinion. But for me, he's setting up wrong. The tactics are poor. The team selections are shocking. The late substitutions aren't working. And he's not changing players that don't deserve to play football. I would have no problem this weekend if he starts Chamiti, Adobbin. I don't give a toss, because I want to see that the players that he's starting are trying to attack and score goals. We could easily go to Brighton and lose 5-0. I almost don't care. I just want to see Everton try and play football. And I'm so fed up of watching this same turgid football week in, week out. And I'm telling you now, other people have been saying, well, what about if Moyes got sacked at West Ham? And what if Everton had new owners and went, you know what, we're going to change the manager? I'll get you, John. I will pay you to go down to that London stadium or wherever he is in London and drive him up. And I know people will disagree with that, but David Moyes had his hands tied behind his back at Everton for 10 years and still managed to get us competing in Europe. So I don't give a toss what happens at this point.
So you have certain people, us included, we've said it, without the points deduction, we'd probably be around 12th. If this Everton team should be around 12th, that's how piss poor this league is. Because I'm telling you right now, in my opinion, shoot me down, not bothered. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. We are not a mid-table team. Yeah, since Sean Dyche has come in, I think the football has got worse. I think the team selections have got worse. The substitutions hasn't changed since he's come in, the times he makes them or the changes he makes. I actually think, and I know this sounds stupid because we should be 12th, but if we get any points back, but we carry on playing the way we're playing with these team selections and struggling to score, then it's going to balance itself out and we will start sliding down that league, even if we get 10 points back. I dread to think if we get any less than 5 back. I'll go on to Calvert-Lewin. Michael was talking about the strikers. Drop it in the comments and I'll ask you, Michael, how many clubs will allow a striker to carry on getting picked week in, week out, if he hasn't scored a league goal for 18 games? No other club allows that. Any other manager would look at his options, and I know Beto's not the best. Dobbin's unproven, but he scored goals, as Michael pointed out. 85 minutes since he scored the goal against Chelsea, he scored. I'd love to know how many minutes Dominic Calvert-Lewin's played since that game without a goal. So the manager needs to start looking at this, because I'm telling you now, as you pointed out right before, I think he won 17 headers on Monday night. I think it was the most in a Premier League game. I've said on here, and I've said to Michael on the phone, don't throw any more stats at me. We had this conversation the other day. I'm not bothered in stats anymore. I'm not bothered if he won 17 headers in one game. Winning headers does not win you games. If you get the 2 chances that he got and put them over the bar, one of them was a glaring miss from a brilliant ball in by Jack Harrison when he come on. A glaring miss. 9 out of 10 strikers of the physique and the height of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, that hits the back of the net. So how can Sean Dyche insist and persist with playing a striker who hasn't scored in 18 Premier League games? That's where the problem lies. He said in his press conference today, the team defends from the front. Since he's come in, the defence has looked stronger. We conceded less goals. That was another stat Michael threw at me. But for me, the way he's setting the defence up now not to concede goals, it seems to be affecting the rest of the team, because we're not scoring goals. The midfielders aren't creating chances. we said before, James Garner's getting the ball, he goes sideways or backwards. I'm not making James Garner my new scapegoat. I'm not. Pickford's pissing me off with them long balls. Tarkowski done the same. But you know what? In hindsight, listening to what Michael said before, I get why they are, because we've got absolutely nothing in that midfield. And if I was James Tarkowski or Jordan Pickford, I wouldn't pass to any of them midfielders the way they're playing. James Garner's the one with the most flair at the club in the middle, in my opinion. Probably followed closely by Andre Gomez. You could probably swap that round. He's never fit. I'd bypass them. But I'm not interested in our centre forward winning 17 headers in one game when he hasn't scored in fucking 18 games.
It's not even that. It's fine winning 17 headers, and it's absolutely great if those 17 headers go to an Everton player. But the fact of the matter is, he's so isolated when he wins those headers because the midfield is nowhere near him anyway. So even if we could, Calvert-Lewin could run his socks off. And I've got to be honest, I thought he played all right against Palace. This is not a throw Calvert-Lewin under the bus. I thought he played all right against Palace, but he had literally no one on his left or his right because McNeil's too slow and Ashley Young is too slow to support him. And Decore was back in the team and was expected to run the length of the pitch on his first game back in God knows how many weeks. I mean, it's absolutely criminal, the squad that Everton have got. It really is. And while you sit there and we talk about financial fair play and people will say about Dyche not having his hands crossed, there is better options. There is better options. Anyway, John, let's get into our teams for this
Just
week.
Before we carry on, I don't want people thinking that it sounds like I threw Calvert-Lewin under the bus again. He frustrates me. He frustrates the hell out of me. But as you've just pointed out, so don't have a pop at me in the comments. It's pick on Sean Dyche's video from John again. He's so isolated up there on his own. But what frustrates me is when he does get the chances, whether it be the headers he had chance the other night, or whether it be what we've spoke about so many times on here, one-on-ones with the goalkeeper, when he's got time to think about what he's going to do, he fluffs that as well. But he's that frustrates me. The chances he misses with his head the other night frustrate me. But I'll hold my hands up. He's very, very isolated. But that's down to the manager for playing the way he does.
Yeah. I'm going to give you my team. Pickford, Mikalenko should be back, albeit he's Pickford not. Branthwaite, Tarkowski. I played Ben Godfrey at right back. Midfield, James Garner, Ladrissa Garner-Gay, Decore. Left, I'll go with Jack Harrison. Right hand side, I'll go Lewis Dobbin. And up front, I'll go Better.
Right. Well, that's interesting, isn't it, everyone? So I go Pickford, Mikalenko if he's fit, Tarkowski, Branthwaite, Godfrey. In the middle, I go Ladrissa Garner-Gay, Onana, Decore. On the left, I go McNeil. On the right, I go Harrison. And up front, I go Dobbin.
You know what my problem is with the three midfielders you've just said?
They're all similar.
They can't play together. We've been there.
Take one of them out the team in the last couple of games. Are they playing together?
No. I know, and that. Do you remember at the start of the season?
So let Ladrissa Garner-Gay do all the work, and one of the other two, but leave one of the other ones a bit further up, because if you've got Dobbin up front, I'd like to think probably Decore or Onana are capable. I'm not going to say they're brilliant at it; they do it week in, week out, but they're capable of threading the pass. Would you not be tempted to get on the end of?
Would you not be tempted? And I'm just thinking out loud. Would you not be tempted to play 4-4-2 and have, say, for example, Calvert-Lewin, who wins loads of headers, and then Dobbin next to him, play 4-4-2?
I'd play 4-4-2 with Dobbin and Calvert-Lewin. I wouldn't play 4-4-2 with Beto and Calvert-Lewin, because we're moaning about the high long ball now. I'm sorry to piss on your parade and burst your bubble. That will never happen under Sean Dyche.
Oh, no.
But I see where you're coming from. And listen, what's wrong with the old traditional 4-4-2 when we're not scoring enough goals? What's wrong with it? Nothing.
Well, the way that it would work for me is Dobbin would play off Louis, so all the knockdowns.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
And his pacing behind could be dangerous. But look, you're right. It doesn't happen, and it will never happen. Score prediction: 2-0 Brighton. There you go. I've done mine. Enjoy the trip, John. The 12-hour round trip or whatever it is.
Come on now. I'm probably going to go 2-1 Brighton. And by the way, have a pop at me in the comments. I'm Michael for being negative. I've got to go down and do that trip, and I'm predicting us to get beat. So I think we're going to leave it there. If any of you are going down to Brighton who watch the channel, come over, say hello. We'll have a bevy, and we'll talk about Everton. And
I've got one last quick thing just to mention. We won 5-1 last season, John. Can pigs fly twice?
No, because I don't think he will. Listen to Zerbi's a top manager. He's not. He'll hang that on the wall in the dressing room, and he'll go look at that. They've got a couple of good players. I love that Minotoma, is it, or whatever his name is?
Minotoma,
yeah, Mitoma, good player. They've got Welbeck, who's coming on. He scored a goal again the other day. He's dangerous. I just don't see where we're getting any points from.
No. Okay. Well, we will leave it there. Hope you've really enjoyed this massively negative match preview from the Blue Boys Network. We'll get ready for the hating and the comments, and we'll make sure that we laugh and don't reply to any of them. Keep smiling up the toffees, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic weekend for you, John. Enjoy the travel, my friend.